All right. Yeah, welcome to Blair and Barker. For Thursday, June 20th.
I should sell tickets just so people can watch you trying to move.
It's the hockey guys. It's the hockey guys.
It's tremendous.
They dropped the microphone.
Look how small it is.
I mean,
he got to lean over to talk into it. It's tremendous.
Jesus, God.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. How's your night going?
Oh, it's just spectacular. Tree fell on the car.
No, that's why I asked.
That's a great start. Great start to the day.
What was the first thing that popped in your mind when you walked outside and saw the tree hanging out of the top of your car?
My first thought was, why didn't it fall in the neighbor's car, which was right beside me?
Oh,
Anyhow.
boy. Stay hot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anyhow, it's an off day for the Blue Jays, or as we refer to it on this show, guaranteed win day. Sorry. I was going to try to get that out at some point. I figured I'd just get it out right away. Maybe if the microphone was higher up, I could have waited longer, but there you
hurt
go.
your back, sure.
And we did ask for new chairs. I see that.
They're
handling that right away.
Look, that's dipping into the budget. You may have to get off that wallet. And do us a favor.
No, I'm not buying.
Makes my legs go numb. Yours?
Huh?
Your legs go numb in these chairs?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, mine do.
Yeah.
My wife yelled at me. She said I move around too much in the chair. I'm like, it's because my legs are going numb.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
What else can we complain about?
Let's complain about. Well, let's talk about John Schneider's lineup tonight. How bad it
it ain't tonight because they ain't playing tonight.
The Jays lost 7. Well, actually, all kidding aside, we have a don't be fooled by what you've heard so far. We have a good show. Mandy Bell, Cleveland Guardians reporter, will join us in the 5 o'clock hour. Jeffrey Passan will be along at 5 o'clock. Jeff Passan will be along at 5 o'clock. The great Fergie Jenkins at 4:30 will join us to discuss Willie Mays and all things baseball. Fergie was very much front and center, and I do mean front and center. He was in the front row and in the center of the front row, as he should be, at Saturday's Hall of Fame.
That's pretty awesome.
Induction ceremony.
Yeah.
Every time I see him, I swear to God, I think Fergie ages in a decreasing manner.
He does.
Right?
That's well said.
Fergie's 80. His next birthday is going to be 79.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
He's a pretty cool dude, flat out. Like it's like every sports figure in Canada wants to make sure that Fergie likes them. It's like, you've noticed that. Every one of those speeches were like, "Hey, Fergie."
If he doesn't like you. You've got an enormous problem as a human being.
It's the greatest thing ever. Yeah.
Anyhow, so we look forward to talking to Fergie Jenkins. As we mentioned, the Jays have today off before they start a 3-game series against the Guardians. They lost 7-3 to the Boston Red Sox last night. Stop me if you've heard this before. They were 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position, 4 for 32 in the series. And last night, the run prevention also failed to prevent runs. 4 errors in that game, 2 of them leading to runs or having a say in runs. Shai Davidi's article today on Sportsnet.ca, Kevin. I didn't know this. John Schneider has run out, because we had a caller last night in Blue Jays Talk said, fire John Schneider. John Schneider doesn't make adjustments. John Schneider's used 70 different lineups in 74 games.
Yeah, I think the caller was trying to make the point about, because I sort of led my conversation with, it's mind-boggling a little bit, the lack of ability to make an in-game adjustment, not allowing that pitcher to get you out the same way over and over and over again. That's what happens, right? I mean,
but you were talking about
that's what I was. Yeah, absolutely. And then the caller came on and said that John basically never does anything in the game.
70 different lineups in 74 games. They've had 6 different cleanup hitters this year. Remember, how many did they have last year? We spent all last year talking about the lack of a run producer, the lack of it. This is 2 years in a row now that basically, the cleanup spot is close your eyes, throw a dart at a dartboard. Oh, it's Dalton Varsho today. It's just, when you see those numbers, and listen, I understand managers move, guys around. The Boston Red Sox lineup has been They've had a lot of different lineups, although, again, in the case of the Boston Red Sox, a lot of that has to do with injuries. And again, this has been, by and large, pretty healthy team so far this year. And they've still had to mix and match with their lineups. So, Kevin, I'll just ask you, what is that a sign of to you? The fact that this is a second year in a row that, cleanup hitter is basically up for grabs, and the fact that we've had 70 different lineups in 74 games.
Does that mean that? How can I say this in a nice way? That from afar outside looking in, that maybe personnel's not good enough. Managers trying to tell us that without actually telling us that, and it's just I've been saying this for 2 years. You asked me, I think 2 years ago, when I was in spring training and I was standing on the field and I was watching those guys take batting practice, and the first thing out of my mouth was, "Who's sitting clean up for the Blue Jays?" And it's still the question. Again, it's like the sort of the same old thing when your manager, your plethora of hitting coaches are trying to find ways to figure out how to get the best out of certain guys that are being put in positions that, quite frankly, they probably shouldn't be being put into. So, yeah, I think that's what John's telling you. It's not a representative of how you would try and go out and win a baseball game in the American League East, and I think you're starting to see that. And the way the conversations are being had from the starting pitchers, they're seeing it too. So, yeah, it's not any surprise for me that the runs are not being scored. And I am a little surprised the way the at-bats from certain guys that play every single day are continuously looking. It's mind-boggling. I try to come on here and understand. And you poked fun at me a couple of days ago when we were talking about that. About the old guy. He forgets about how hard it is.
I would do no
it ain't
such
this
a
hard.
Thing. I would do no such.
It ain't.
Oh,
this
you're
hard.
talking about the survey about how modern day players think you older players forget how hard the game is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would be I would flip it on its other end and say it ain't this hard. It's these are elite athletes. These are guys that's never had this much information at their fingertips. Like, if you want it, there's some khaki that'll run and give it to you. That wasn't the case when I played. Like, you either figured out how to see ball, hit ball, or you were in AA. So, yeah, look, this is, again, I hate to say it this way, and we said this last night in a nice way. Sometimes you could probably point the finger at the personnel, and the personnel in the field consistently that John is trying to run out there 70 different ways is having a tough time in-game adjusting, hitting fastballs, hitting velocity with movement. I mean, we saw that last night. Bello was throwing 98 way in off the plate, and you saw a bunch of right-handers chasing that and getting themselves out. So, yeah, I mean, this is sort of I think what we're trying to get used to seeing on an everyday basis.
And to me, nothing screams the state of this offense more that, Justin Turner has 2 good games and he's in the number 2 spot. It's like literally – if you hit in back-to-back games, John Schneider's got a spot for you in the lineup.
Yeah,
unless it's Davis Schneider.
Well, why did Schneider and Clement?
And Ernie Clement.
Why did those two guys? I would think those two guys the last couple of days have given you some quality at bats, and you just don't put them in a lineup when you're about to get swept at home, and you're trying to get to 500. It's like sometimes you just overthink it when it's right in front of you.
Now that we have an off day, let's take a little bit of a look at Addison Barger and Spencer Horwitz. In particular, Barger. It's the second time up with the team. He looks different. He's making more contact. What are you seeing in terms of a difference? And have you seen enough from Addison Barger that you want to see him continue to get a lot of run?
Yeah, I mean, what's the expectations for Addison? I think that's what you got to ask yourself. He's not a middle-of-the-order bat right now. I mean, he's a 6, 7, 8 hole hitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's trying to find his way.
Probably more, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, somewhere down at the bottom of the order, right? I don't want to say a table setter, but, if he's run producing for a week at a time, I think you'd take that, right? You'd be fortunate to get that. He's still got a big swing. I mean, he still kicks it to his ear. I think it's a little bit more under control because he is trying to hit the ball the other way. That's a big deal, right? I ain't saying let the ball travel, but I think a little bit more in the phone booth, like not party out front so much. You know, when he came on our show, and that's the first thing out of his mouth was, I always want party out front. You get to the big leagues, they spin it in fastball counts. They elevate it, they crowd you. Party out front ain't happening no more. Mm-hmm. So now you got to think about when you do get sent down and you're 1 for 18 or whatever he was, you got to make some adjustments mentally. It's not so much mechanically, because his mechanics, I think, look sort of the same. You know, he starts with an open stance. He kicks it to his ear. He's still trying to generate some damage, doing it to the big part of the field. I just think it's about the trying to go the other way, being a tougher out with 2 strikes, being a little bit more under control in the phone booth. I think that's sort of the adjustment, at least I see. And hopefully he does get some run, especially with the way George Springer looks. I mean, let's be honest. Like, unless you throw a slider down the middle, is he a tough out? I think that's what you got to ask yourself. So, you know, I know what John said about they're not there yet with the 3 days a week. I think John's the only guy in that camp.
Oh, maybe it's 4 days a week. And
they're 4 games under 500. So I'm in the camp. I'd like to see what the younger guys got. That's why we're Relvis Martinez. I mean, I'm gonna be the guy. I don't understand why they're basically coming out and saying it's got to be one certain guy that throws one certain way before we put our biggest, best everyday prospect in the lineup. Do you understand that? You're basically telling the kid he's not good enough to be here without telling him that.
Do I understand? I'm not surprised by it, considering how this organization goes about its business. As I said, this thinking on your feet is not a particular strength of this organization.
They're getting 3 righties in a row, Jeff, the next 3 days. They all do the same exact thing.
But I'm not it's not how I would do it, but I'm not surprised by it. I'm not surprised by it at all. Nothing. Honestly, nothing this team does surprises me. Stuff disappoints me.
You didn't have Clement and Snyder in the lineup yesterday. You had a perfect opportunity to get a youngster in the lineup, and you didn't do it.
Yeah, but
shocking.
I'm
shocked a little.
I'm saying I'm with you, but given the way things are done around this team, nothing like that. Nothing that wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets one start.
Played 4 days now.
It wouldn't surprise me if he gets one start and gets sent down when Bo comes back.
Played 4 days.
I know. I'm just saying. It wouldn't.
You don't think it's odd? I do think it's a little odd. Like it's
Kevin. The problem is there's.
I don't care if he can't play defense.
You can't. You can't ask me if it's a little odd, because I don't think anything's odd with this organization.
Maybe.
I just don't. They could do anything any day, and. You know, I'm just gonna shrug, because there's nothing this team could do that would stun me, short of just benching George Springer forever and ever and ever.
The only reason I say that is yesterday I think John came out when somebody asked him about Relvis Martinez, and he says he's trying to put him in the right position to have a good start. Next 3 guys are right-handed: Carrasco, Lively, McKenzie. Slider, sinker, four-seamer. Sinker, sweeper, four-seamer.
I mean, I think Lively, he's probably going to see curve. Lively.
Sinker, sweeper, four-seamer. In off the plate, away off the plate. It's the exact – most righty that you face at the big league level all do the same thing. That's my point. It's like Bello yesterday. Now, the extra gear and the velocity was the one thing that sort of eye-popped to you. But other than that, it was the same thing. It was the changeup away. It was the slider away. It was the sinker in off the plate. And then you're facing 3 dudes in a row that do the same exact thing. That's the point. And now I think it's what's it been 4 days now with him out actually playing a game. He's 22. How many 20? I didn't know when I played baseball how to sit 4 days and then come off and have a quality game. That's what I'm saying. I think that if you're a Blue Jays fan, it's a little frustrating. You see what you see on an everyday basis from the guys that are already here, and then you get this guy that everybody's talking highly about on the offensive side anyway, and then you won't let us see him. Why not?
I mean, one of the things that I don't understand about this is I don't see you're going to pick spots for this kid, so maybe 2 games.
When they face the lefty.
If he is, and I do agree with you on this, with you on this, if he is your top prospect, you see, at this point in time, I made the point I don't want this guy to come up and people to regard him as a savior. And then if he scuffles a bit and gets sent down, everybody's going, okay, well, that's it. But the flip side of that argument is, to me, see what he can do. Like he can't be worse than what you're running out. And I'll ask you this. If you brought Aurelvis Martinez up, what did Barger do? 1 for 18 when he was up here?
Whatever. Yeah, he got one hit.
One hit.
Yeah.
Let's say Aurelvis Martinez comes up here, I don't know, 2 for 12.
Yeah.
And you end up sending him down to AAA.
After 2 for 12.
Well, like you did with Barger. No, you're sending him down because Bo's coming back. Bo's going to be back Tuesday.
I hear you.
And I mean, God forbid you'd send any. Somebody's going to have to go down. And it's probably him.
Yeah.
You think he's going to go down with his confidence shattered?
Absolutely. Though. He's 22.
That's one of the things that I wonder about.
I think it would give him a excuse me.
I mean, I'll tell you the truth. Listen, right now, and I understand the part of the thinking here is if that shortstop, Leo, brain fart, is it Leo Jimenez, the shortstop they have? If he was had not had a concussion, he would probably be the guy they would have brought up. That's kind of what John indicated. And he's a guy that, he's older. I think he's 25 years old or something like that.
Age is just a number now, basically.
Yeah, but I don't get, if you're not going to play him every day, then leave him in AAA and bring somebody else up. That's the one thing I don't get. Either I don't like bringing him up, but if you're going to bring him up, Jimenez is 23, thank you. If you're going to bring him up, play him. That's the way I look at this. And
I just don't like the part where they're basically telling everybody it's got to be the perfect pitcher before we start him. I don't like that. I mean, you're basically telling that kid he's not good enough to face the Bellows of the world. Oh, come on,
but this
man,
is
really?
all. You also know that.
Come on.
Again, though, does that surprise you that this organization would think of it that way? Given how how it took them a month to figure out that Spencer Horwitz was having a good year.
Maybe a lot of organizations talk that way, but you don't got to say it out loud. Just say right now it's not the best time. We're going to get him in when we get him in. Like to say it like that, I just don't understand that part of it. I mean, I get the 22 and him going 2 for 12 and being sent down. It's not going to destroy him. It might give him a little blueprint on what he needs to work on to be an everyday guy at the big league level, right? I mean, everybody knows he's got to work on his defense a little. Catch the ball right at you. Catch the ball right at you. You hit a home run or 2 or 3 a week. Be in big leagues a long time. You make a ton of money. I just don't understand that part of it. Again, the next 3 righties throw the same exact way.
I will say this.
And they're all veterans.
I will say this. And I'm just saying, if this might be part of the equation, how much damage are you doing to your run prevention if, for example, you were to start Aurelvis Martinez and Horwitz and Barger, have them in your lineup? I'm throwing that out there. As it is right now, you've got Horwitz at second base. He's no sure thing. You had Barger at third base yesterday. He made an error. I'm just saying, I'm wondering if that's it. I wonder if that is part of the thought process here is you can't have essentially 2 guys who don't have a position right now on the field at the same time.
You also can't have 1 through 5 at home, not having an RBI, and your entire lineup be 1 for 15 with runners in scoring position. Like, catch the ball right at you. I mean, he's not an atrocious defender. And the most of the people that I talk to, it's more throwing errors. It's like not setting your feet and following your throw. Like, that's the most part of it. It's not actually catching the baseball. Again, they got so many smart people that they're going to stand him where he needs to be standing, that most of the time that ball's going to be hit right at you. I just catch it right at you. Like, that's the thing. Offensively, it might be an upgrade. Like, he may bring some energy. He might run into one, might hit a 3-run homer, but he may not. But how will we ever know if you never play him? That's the point now. And now he's having these days off. It's not the easiest thing to do for a 22-year-old. Hey, maybe I'm overthinking that, but I know when I was 22, I needed to play all the time. Like, when I got in a groove, because I had a long swing, so does he. His swing is long. He looks like Baez. Kick it to your ear and let that thing eat, man. It is party out front. And if I get a hang and break a ball, get it. If I swing and miss by 3 feet, I swing and miss by 3 feet. It's got a long swing, but you know what a long swing means? You got to do it all the time. For it to be shorter, you got to do it all the time. And now you've been sitting over there, and now you're going to ask a kid to come off and face Carrasco, who is a veteran guy who's
Don't think he's facing Carrasco. I think he's probably going to face Lively, isn't that?
So that's another day off. It's like, and that dude throws decently hard and throws a sinker. It's been around for a while. It's got a sweeper. So he's going to start at the front hip, and it's going to end up, good luck. This is what 5 games under 500 look like. I'm not saying he's the savior, and I would never say that. But there's got to be a little bit of that. Hey, I can't wait to watch the Blue Jays today because this guy looks decent. I like that. You like to see Vladdy swinging at balls that are 3 feet in with runners on base? It
is remarkable, Kevin, how when you look at this, I think it was Brandon Weil of The Score tweeted this out last night because we referred to it in Blue Jays Talk. This team at the Rogers Center is awful offensively.
I guess it does seem
they're horrible offensively.
It does seem like the people that I've talked to that matter, that play every single day, it's in their head. Like they don't think the ball carries there. They're the only team that it don't carry for. I mean, you see teams come in here
carried okay for Tyler O'Neill.
Duran hit a ball above the flight deck last night.
Yep.
He's a little dude. Yep. I mean, he's yoked, but he's a little dude. Just thumping, hanging sliders. Like, that's the thing, right? I mean, I would think if you're in the organization for the Blue Jays, you'd try and gain some momentum going forward here, right? I'm not saying, again, I don't even know if Relvis Martinez can hit the big league level or not. But how will you ever know? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I just, sort of, because we try and be positive on this show, but it's hard going 1 for 15, 1 for 5, and no RBIs, not seeing in-game adjustments. The 4 errors, that's odd. One of those was the KK throw, which is an odd. That's bad luck. The other 2, they were flat-footed.
They're 5.5 out of the wild card spot, by the way.
Even more reason to play Relvis.
Their run differential is -40. They and Tampa are the only teams in the wild card area right now that have a run differential, a negative run differential.
And the 70 different lineups will tell you that having a guy come into John's office and go, why am I not playing or why am I not hitting here? Those days are gone. See ya. I mean, I guess other than Vladdy, they seem to like Vladdy where Vladdy's hitting.
Well, I mean, at least Vladdy is making some contact. Not doing much with it, but at least he is making some contact. Fergie Jenkins is a member of the National Baseball Hall of Fame. He's a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. He had 284 wins, a 3.34 ERA, and 3,192 career strikeouts, and in 1 year had more complete games than most starting pitchers will accumulate in their lifetime.
Through 300 or more innings, 5 seasons. That's a lot.
That is a lot of pitching. We're going to talk to Fergie Jenkins about Willie Mays. Of course, Willie Mays passed away at the age of 93. A couple of nights ago, baseball is playing their exhibition game tonight at Rickwood in Birmingham, Alabama, in honor of the Birmingham Black Barons and in honor of all the Negro League players. And tonight, especially, Willie Mays' name will be front and center, very much front and center. So Fergie Jenkins joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. We have tickets to give away to see the Blue Jays take on the Yankees at the Rogers Center. Jeff Passan joins us at 5 o'clock. Mandy Bell covers the Cleveland Guardians for MLB.com. She will be along. Stephen Kwan is hitting 400 today. The Cleveland Guardians.
Got 200 at bats, too.
The Orioles are out in front of the Yankees. I believe it's 3-0 right now. Cedric Mullins hit a 3-run home run. So, as we predicted last night, you saw Gunnar Henderson got hit.
Wear it.
Ding, 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 ding.
Good for him. He just put his head down and walked to first.
Down and went.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
I had my doubts whether it was going to come or not, but I think it's the right spot, right? Like every once in a while that the Orioles are coming, and they're trying to be the bully on the block.
Yeah, I didn't get
the
the.
Yankees,
I
you
didn't
can't
get
let
the
that
sense.
happen.
You didn't get other than I think it was Jose Trevino was the catcher. He was pretty certain. He was pretty quick to get in front of Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar Henderson to me didn't look like he was going to do anything other than take his pads off and go down to first base.
Yeah,
and that's smart.
Yeah, absolutely. You knew it was coming.
He
knew it was coming.
Well, and I think also, look, that's the rivalry now, and I just think that you've got to be smart. You got to be smart when you have a rivalry. You just got to pick your spots.
Yeah, and he hit him in the right spot too.
Yeah. We mentioned that Major League Baseball will be playing a game tonight in Birmingham, Alabama at Rickwood Field, which is the oldest professional baseball park in the United States. It was built in 1910 for the Birmingham Barons. And, of course, this is a celebration of the Negro Leagues. It was also, for a while, going to be a celebration not just of Negro Leagues players, but also of Willie Mays, who played there. He was originally going to be very much front and center in this. Now, of course, Willie's family reached out to Major League Baseball and said he's not going to be able to make it. Willie sent out a statement, and then, a couple of nights ago, we all found out, I think at the same time, that Willie Mays had passed away at the age of 93. So rightfully, we had Bob Kendrick on yesterday, and rightfully there will be time to mourn Willie Mays at tonight's game, but there will also be a great deal of time to celebrate his career and his life and his significance to the game of baseball. Fergie Jenkins is a National Baseball Hall of Fame inductee, Cooperstown in 1991. He's also a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. He was inducted in 1987, and we're very pleased that Fergie Jenkins joins us on Blair and Barker. Fergie, thanks so much for joining us today. I saw you at the Hall of Fame induction, so I know you're looking good. You're keeping well. We wanted to get you on to talk about a lot of things, but first and foremost, I did want to talk to you a little bit about Willie Mays. Now, you guys faced each other an awful lot.
60 at bats.
I think you struck him out 18 times.
No, he had 18 hits.
18 hits.
He had 4 home runs off of Fergie. 4 home runs,
right. But Fergie, I think you struck him out 14 times. So it was close.
Okay. All right.
What was Willie like as an opponent?
Well, I first had the opportunity to face him. I was like 21 years old. And we had Leo DeRocher when I was traded to the Cubs as the manager. And Leo told me, don't look for Willie Mays taking pitches. He'll be swinging at that first pitch regardless of what it is. Fastball, slider, changeup, whatever. Whatever you do, don't make it a strike because he's up there to hit. So that was the most important thing that I learned first on what pitches to throw to Willie, and then attack him from whatever pitches you want to try to get him out with. I had a pretty good slider. I stuck with that a lot of times as an out pitch. I got to try to get a hold of him ahead with a good sinking fastball. But he was a hitter that went up there positively to get base hits. If he had the opportunity to take you deep, he did that too. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing is, pitching to the first time I faced him was in spring training when he was with the Giants at the old ballpark there, the Phoenix ballpark there in Arizona. It was the Cactus League. So I soon learned what pitches he wanted to hit, what pitches I thought I could get him out with, and then be aggressive.
Was he an intimidating guy at the plate?
Oh, yes, definitely. Oh, well, of course. As a kid growing up, you always want to face the number one hitters in baseball. Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Killebrew, those type of guys. He always read a lot about them. And when I got to the big leagues, I couldn't wait to face guys like this. So as when I went to spring training with the Cubs the first time, in the 60s, early 60s. That was the challenge to get McCovey, all these different guys in that Cactus League out.
Well, where does Willie rank in, when you face the toughest of all the hitters, and how do you get him out? Like, is Willie at the top of the list when it just comes? You talked about the slider, and, I'm sure you had to locate and you had to be careful in certain pitches. But is there a ranking of certain hitters that you knew that I had to be real fine and be on top of my game to get him out? And was Willie one of those guys?
Oh, yeah, he was in the top 5, definitely. 1 or 2. Clemente was right there. McCovey, Pete Rose, Harmon Killebrew, K-Line. They're all right there. I mean, there was so many good hitters in Major League Baseball back then, and you had to face them spring training, or you had to face them during the season. So that was the number 1 ranking that I put Willie Mays in.
Yeah, and of course, back then, you were going 9 innings. They weren't going to bring in a specialist to face Willie in the 8th inning, were they? That was
no.
You were going to be out there.
That was kind of the important thing that Leo used to always tell me. Hey, what you get him out with, try to remember, or do a duplicate type pitch, but not saying that he is going to hit your best stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You better come up with your A game. So that's what I tried to always remember.
How do you set somebody like that up? I'm assuming this is, looking at your stats, Fergie, it was, the one thing that stood out to me was the 300 innings pitched 5 different times. That's a lot of innings. And that would mean that if you face like the Willie Mayses of the world, you're facing them 4 times instead of 2 times like they are now. How do you set a guy like that up? Like, you don't want to show him everything in the first at-bat because you're trying to get him out in the 4th at-bat. So how do you do that?
Well, when I was younger, I think maybe, as I said early in my 20s, I'd be a little more aggressive with my fastball. I had a pretty good fastball, make him hit your best pitch, and then maybe try to get him out with maybe a slider or maybe an offbeat pitch. But Willie was up there to hit anything. I mean, he was really aggressive at the plate, too. There were so many more aggressive hitters in the National League because of the fact that I just think that they had so many players of color, from Stargell. I'll just mention the guys: Stargell, Clemente, McCovey, Dick Allen. I mean, there were so many guys that you knew if you made a mistake, you're going to have to pay for it. So the A game is what I always thought about doing and trying to execute.
That's a great point you make, because I think a lot of people sometimes overlook the fact that the National League, once the color barrier was broken, it did seem, didn't it, Fergie, to be a little faster to bring African American players into the league.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there were so many good players of color on each team. I didn't mention Cepeda. I didn't mention Aaron. Aaron. There was, you make mistakes with certain hitters, you're going to pay. So, and more so because of the fact they were hitting 3, 4, or 5 in the lineup.
Right.
That was the tough part of trying to tell yourself you have to remember what you got them out before, or what they tried to hit, or if they got themselves out, but do the same thing and be aggressive, and don't let them hit your secondary pitch.
Fergie, how do you think your stuff would play now, today, in 2024?
I see a lot of games. The Cubs play quite a few games. I still work with the team. I think I'd fare very well. Mm-hmm. I think that there shouldn't be a problem. I had pretty good stuff when I was younger.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
But the biggest thing is you got to beat your opponent. A guy like Seaver, Gibson, Marichal, Perry, Carlton. That's the guy you got to beat sometimes, because they're out there to win ball games too. So pitching and trying to be as strong as your opponent, those are the guys that you got to beat.
Yeah, it's great hearing you say that, because I think we've kind of lost that a little bit. I remember when I covered the Montreal Expos and Greg Maddux would roll into town, and guys who were facing him, they they get jacked up because they're facing Greg Maddux. And there was that real, it's a team game, but there was that real sense of head-to-head competition between the pitchers. And, I mean, Fergie, I don't know if we get that now because it's kind of, well, you know, hey, I could be pitching well, but you know what? Around the sixth inning, I know that my both the bench coach and the manager are, you know, looking at my pitch count and trying to figure out when they're going to take me to the game. So I don't know if you have as much of that head-to-head stuff as you used to have, and I kind of miss that.
No,
as a fan.
I don't think it's apparent now because I knew I had to be as strong as a Drysdale,
Yeah.
As a Carlton or a Seaver or a Gibson, Marichal. I mean, there was so many good named pitchers. Number one, number two, that you're going to have an opponent to face. So you had to be as strong, give up as few runs, few hits as your opponent. That's what the game was all about back then in the 60s, 70s.
You know, with all the emphasis we have now on analytics in the game, and especially with pitching, when you talk to young pitchers, how receptive are they, Fergie, to what you were telling them?
Well, I think that you try to pick their brain on what they're trying to accomplish, pitch to pitch, inning to inning, or who their opponent is. They've got their views. I think the biggest thing now, pitchers are called from the bench. When I broke in with the Phillies, I threw to Dalrymple with the Phillies. And when I got traded, I threw to Randy Hundley for years and years. And then Texas, I had Jim Sundberg. Boston, I had Carlton Fisk. And we basically called our own game. We went over the hitters before the series started, and we knew what we tried to get hitters out with and what our pitch series would be against certain guys. And I think they've lost that at the game. They've lost it.
Fergie, what do you make of this year's Blue Jays team, and how do you think they can turn it around?
You know, that the biggest thing is, as you said, turn it around. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of young players, and right now they're kind of stymied of not playing really well, low batting averages. I think that they've got to step up after the All-Star break, and they got a few more games before the All-Star break, but they've got to start thinking about that second half of the season, what they can do to motivate their team to higher in the standings. There's a lot of ball clubs like that. You know, the Rangers are not playing real good. Mm-hmm. They won the World Series last year. They were one of the top teams. The Cubs were really playing well. Now they're in the doldrums of being in last place. You know, they've got to step it up. These young men's got to tell themselves, hey, if our ball club's going to try to move up in standings, we got to step up. Better batting averages, more hits, more home runs, that type of thing.
Fergie, I know you talked about pitching. You talked about throwing sliders and locating the fastball and changing speeds and those kind of things. I want to get your thoughts on the elevated fastball. Did you ever throw the elevated fastball when you were a pitcher? And why do you think that gives a hitter so much trouble nowadays?
Well, I didn't throw up maybe an 0-2 waist pitch high up around the letters, and some of them offered at it. You get some check swings. I think because of the fact that the umpires will call it, and guys see that. A lot of times with a lot of the scouts that are going ahead to watching ball clubs play, they'll say, hey, you can get ahead of this guy up in the strike zone. I was a guy that was down in the strike zone. I had a good slider down, a good sinker down. I probably had more success down in the strike zone. But like you said, because of the fact that umpires will call that pitch, and it's a borderline pitch, and sometimes you get away with it, and you win.
Yep. Do you like watching baseball right now? Do you like the way the game is?
There's a lot of question marks about the way the game's played now, you know, because of the fact that the roster's increased a couple of players. Guys move around. The biggest thing is managers, they've moved people around so much, and the lineups are never set. DeRocher, Mock, and Billy Martin, they had set lineups. They stayed with certain people. Guys play 50, 60 games in a row, unless they get hurt. Now they changed it. They jumped the roster so many different times. Not the same roster, maybe 3 or 4 days in a row. I think that's what's so crazy now.
Fergie, you think the pitch clock would have been a big deal when you played for you as a pitcher? And do you think the pitchers now have suffered a little bit when it comes to having to hurry up, make up their mind? We see people like Bassett, you know, Chris Bassett has to hurry up, and he's got 9 different pitches. You got to get on the same page. You're setting one up to throw the other one, and that clock is a thing. Do you think that would hinder you or have helped you when you were a pitcher?
I don't think it would have hindered me because I was a pretty quick pitcher. Gibson and I, Carlton, we threw a lot of quick games. Seaver, because we only threw like 4 pitches: fastball, curveball, slider. A guy that throws 7 or 8 pitches, he's changing speeds on different pitches, on his fastball, maybe on his curveball, slider, maybe even on his changeup. But I think that thinking of certain pitches you're going to get hitters out with, and all it takes is 1 or 2. It doesn't take 7 or 8 pitches to get hitters out with. You got to stay with your number one pitch. I was told that when I had Robin Roberts as a coach, or Joe Becker, or so many different coaches, Cal McClish. Stay with your number one pitch. Those are the pitches you get guys out with, and that's the respect you get from the hitter.
Fergie, really good of you to join us today. Thanks so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's always a pleasure to see you, and continue to be well, my friend. Thank you.
It's an honor, Fergie. Thank you.
That. All right, all the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Fergie Jenkins, National Baseball Hall of Fame inductee in 1991, Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum inductee in 1987. And as I said, Fergie looks like he could quote.
He don't look 81 for sure. Yeah, I wonder how a pitcher that was used to, not using your best stuff early in the game because you knew you needed it late in the game because you know you were going to have to go late in the game, how that would translate to 5 and dive. I wonder that. Man.
I just, hearing Fergie talk, you realize, when these guys were facing Aaron, Mays, Clemente, we forget this. They're facing them 4 times a game.
Yeah.
Not 2. Not 3. You're facing them 4 times a game. And these were the best of the best of the best of the best. And when you think of that, the way the game is played now, it's just, there's so many things about Fergie. I always tell people, if you've got a spare moment and you're a baseball fan, just go and look at his baseball reference page. Just go look at it.
It's crazy.
And just look. Just look at it.
Yeah.
And just kind of imagine, given the era that he played in, pitched in Chicago during the day, relatively small ballpark.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to see what he did against really, really good hitters like that. The thing that has always really struck me about guys like Seaver and guys like Gibson and guys like Fergie Jenkins, of course they're going to do well against the good hitters. Otherwise, they wouldn't necessarily be as great as we think they are. But if you look at their numbers head to head, it is really. It's something else.
Yeah, Fergie, to your point, the stat I mentioned about the 5 times with 300 innings or more pitched, that's a really cool stat. But the one that popped out to me was the first right-hander to end a career with at least 3,000 Ks and fewer than 1,000 walks. So basically, he's punching you out and not walking you. I mean, that's what it is, and that's what Fergie was talking about, right? Is I can't show it to you early because I gotta show it to you your 4th at bat. Like it's that stat there that sort of sums up just what it took to be a Hall of Famer when he pitched. You had to be able to pitch. You had to be able to add and subtract. You had to be able to live on the edges. I wonder how the elevated fastball, it was a pitch down error like it was when I played. How dare you throw up? Like, obviously the velocity wasn't emphasized the way it is now, but it's still, how would a Fergie have, gotten through being able or encouraged to throw up to say left-handed hitters? I wonder how that would have went over.
Just looking at his complete games. 1967, he had 20. 1968, he had 20. 1969, he had 23. 1970, he had 24. 1971, playing in the National League for the Chicago Cubs, he had 30. Then he fell off in 1972 to 23. 1973 was not a great year. He had 7 complete games. But 1974, at the age of 31, he had 29. And 1975, at the age of 32, he had 22.
Mm-hmm.
And he had 12 complete games when he was 37.
He had some seasons where he made 40 starts. Like that. That's something else. It's just give it to you, throw it, and I'll give you a complete game.
3 seasons of 40 starts.
That's crazy. Like, it's just, here it is, take the ball, and nobody else is throwing that thing. It's like,
and the other thing
crazy.
too, is because he had to hit.
Yeah.
Right? He had to hit.
He's a pretty good hitter, too.
He was a decent hitter.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we saw an interview, Mark Boffo, our producer, we were watching an interview that Fergie did with Ryan Dempster and Kevin Millar on the MLB network. And they were talking to him, and they started talking about Fergie the hitter. Boom, he had his hitting numbers right out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about bunting, too, and when you had to do that, it helped you win baseball games by the
that's
small
the one
ball
thing. The one thing I like the fact that we don't have hitters pitching pitchers hitting anymore. Unfortunately, we do have hitters pitching, but I like the fact that we don't have pitchers.
Yeah, velocity's eliminated that. It's not safety wise. It's just not a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean, a pitcher trying to bunt high velocities is very hard to do, especially elevated velocity too.
Although, again, it's like I've often wondered if you had a DH earlier in the history of baseball, some of those guys would have hung around even longer.
Yeah,
would have hung around
Absolutely.
even longer and played. But anyhow, it was great.
That's pretty cool.
It's great of Fergie to join us.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is. He's very much. He's an icon of the game. He's an icon of Canadian sports, and it is. Hearing people talk about Willie Mays walking into, I think it was Bob Costas said Willie Mays would walk into a clubhouse and it's like the waters would part. Even now, it's kind of the same thing when Fergie shows up.
Absolutely,
everybody knows who he is.
No question,
and everybody says the same thing.
Yeah,
he's how old?
I know. I said that too till I looked it up.
Yeah. Jeff Passan is ESPN's MLB insider. He will join us in a few minutes. Mandy Bell will be along. She covers the Cleveland Guardians for MLB.com. Should we do the trivia now? We'll do the trivia now.
Go for it.
We'll do the trivia now. We've been giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here on Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 590-590. Our last question, Mariah Carey admitted that her 1997 song, The Roof, was about when she kissed which New York Yankees star on the rooftop of his apartment building? The answer, of course, was Paul O'Neill. I'm just kidding. The answer was Derek Jeter. By the way, what did you ask?
No, don't worry about it.
What did you ask Jeter when you stood on? Well, you brought it up.
But I will never tell.
You said you're standing in second base with Derek Jeter.
She was in the front row. That's the only reason I asked, and I knew there were, what the acquaintance was between the two parties.
Did you have her gift basket with her?
No.
Okay. Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays and Yankees.
I didn't see a gift basket. What's the matter with you?
Because that was the story.
I know that's the story. What is wrong with you?
Today's question is to win tickets. Did you give out a gift basket? Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays and Yankees at the Rogers Center on Friday, June 28th.
This show and days off, man. I tell you what.
I'll tell you what. When
Derek, are you kidding?
When Derek,
I blame you.
We got our question and the music's
going. Let's go. Hurry up.
When Derek Jeter hosted Saturday Night Live in 2001, he was joined by which two teammates who also played for the Jays in the famous Yankee Wives sketch? Text the answer to 590-590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590.
That couldn't have went better, Jeff.
Jeff Passan joins us next. Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. It's an off day today for the Blue Jays. I just said it's an off day and you're smiling like it's some sort of humorous thing.
Well, I just thought of you saying. You led with the show with saying they can't lose today.
No, I said it was guaranteed win day.
That's the same as they can't lose today.
I mean, I got to stop doing that.
You do. Positive, Jeff.
No, I am positive. I was
lie.
positive last night on Blue Jays Talk. I was absolutely positive last night in Blue Jays Talk. I had a hard time keeping it together when Gary in Vancouver called up and said,
I love fired people.
I love firing people. My dad ran a restaurant. He fired people all the time.
That's my favorite caller now.
That was a tremendous caller. Let's bring in Jeff Passan, another one of our favorite callers, MLB insider with ESPN. How you doing, Jeff?
Better than the Jays.
Oh man.
Cannot argue. Cannot argue with that. Hey, because we have we're going to do a quick trivia question because I pooched it the last one. So, and we know that you love our trivia questions so much. So I've got to redo it because I ran out of time, right? And people get upset. Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays and Yankees at the Rogers Center on Friday, June 28th. And if you're really lucky, John Schneider may ask you to hit cleanup. When Derek Jeter hosted Saturday Night Live in 2001, he was joined by which two teammates who also played for the Jays in the famous Yankee Wives sketch? Again, when Derek Jeter hosted Saturday Night Live in 2001, he was joined by which two teammates who also played for the Jays in the famous Yankees Wives sketch? Text the answer to 595.
I know this.
For your shot to win, see rules at sportsnet.ca/590.
Why not? Go for it.
Can I answer?
Absolutely.
Wait,
I mean,
you
why
actually
not?
Want me to?
Yeah, go for
Waffle,
it.
can
I
he
get
do
the
it?
tic- do I
Just
get
let
the
me check.
tickets?
Mark, is he okay if we let him answer it? Jeff's allowed to do whatever he wants. There you go. Fire away.
Go for it.
So wait, am I going to be stealing tickets from a poor Blue Jays fan? Because I don't want to do that.
Nah, don't worry.
No,
We'll
no.
make sure.
You'll get to sit with us if you come to the game.
We'll make sure.
in the
We'll
press
make
box.
sure that somebody gets the tickets. Don't worry.
All right, the answer is David Cohn and David Wells.
See, I didn't get it. I missed that sketch. Believe it or not.
Do you ever watch that?
I used to.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't.
I think everybody watches that. At least I do.
But when was this? When was this sketch, Boffo? Like, what year are we talking? Because I probably stopped 2001 in the question. Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably stopped watching Saturday Night Live before 2001. But anyhow, there you go.
Way to go, Passan. You're the best.
You are.
Okay, you started with
Thanks, boys.
you started with better than the Jays. How did the Jays get better? Me and Jeff have no idea, so you answer.
Yeah, I got no clue.
We don't have any idea.
I actually know the answer to this question.
Let's hear it.
Because in anticipation of my appearance today, I did a little research into how the Jays have been playing lately, trying to figure out what exactly is the issue. What's the most? I'm going to turn this on you guys for a second. What's the most important thing in modern baseball?
Hitting home runs.
That is correct. In the month of June, the Toronto Blue Jays have 10 home runs as a team. That is dead last in Major League Baseball. In the month of June, the Toronto Blue Jays pitching staff ranks 29th out of 30 teams in Major League Baseball in allowing home runs. The answer to the Blue Jays' problem is the home run ball. They need to hit more. They need to give up less. If they can do that, they're a good team. They haven't done that, so they are not. It is as simple as that, guys.
Which one do you think would come first, the pitching part of it or the offensive part of it?
You know, it's like, why aren't they hitting home runs as an offense? That is the question that I don't know the answer to. Because when you look at their lineup, they have guys who have power, right? Like they have guys who you would anticipate would be going and hitting home runs. And so I would think that the offensive part would come first, but their starting pitching this month, it hasn't been that bad.
No.
Like their starting pitching's been decent. It's been the bullpen and the lack of home runs on the offense. Well, really, just the offense period has been kind of dreadful. But especially with power, they're just not hitting for it, and it's become a real problem. And when you're getting swept by a team like the Red Sox, who I think at best are like an average, maybe slightly above average team, in this month where the Jays were supposed to essentially say, we are going to be contenders or we are not, they're answering that question And it's not the answer that anyone who was listening here, I think, was looking for.
Jeff, you look at the Guardians and you wonder why they're good, and obviously their pen is really good. They're first in baseball and a bunch of things average against in the ERA. But you look at their three studs in the offense, Quan, he's hitting 400, Ramirez and Naylor. They're all doing their thing. You look at the Blue Jays, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is 53rd in total bases, 108th in extra base hits with 19, 113th in baseball in home runs, 95th in RBIs. Bo Bichette obviously is injured and hurt. He's 86th in hits. There's your answer.
Yep.
Like, it just gets down basically most of the time. Why are the Yankees all of a sudden the Yankees? Judge and Soto. Like, it's
Aaron Judge and Juan Soto.
There you go. I mean, this is a no-brainer for me. It's easy to blame Kirk with the 561 OPS and Springer with the 579 OPS and, KK not hitting the fastball anymore. And you could go down the list. But for me, it gets down to the shortstop and the first baseman. Just basically, I can say this in a nicer way, but right now I haven't shown up for the season yet. I think that's sort of the gist of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to say it is your stars need to be stars.
Boom.
You mentioned, or Kevin mentioned Stephen Kwan. And look, we saw the Guardians here, and the Jays are playing the Guardians this weekend, and I looked at his numbers, and I thought they were really nice. And then I kind of looked at it again today. I thought, he's hitting 400.
He rakes.
He's hitting 400, Jeff. Like,
He's hitting 400, and beyond that, Jeff, like, the most incredible part to me is that Stephen Kwan missed 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And he still leads Major League Baseball in 3-hit games. Like, he had another hit today, batting .396 on the year. He's got 11 3-plus hit games this season. The next closest guy has 8. He is, between him and Luis Ariz, I wonder at what point the baseball industry or frankly just players, right? They look at the ability for Stephen Kwan and Luis Ariz to do what they're doing and say, you know what, I'm going to try to replicate that. I'm not going to change the launch angle on my swing. I'm not going to try and tap into more power. I just want to be a bat-to-ball freak. And there are guys out there who have that ability to just spray line drives all over the field. And if you look at the new swing speed metrics that Statcast has put out, Luis Ariz is by far at the bottom. Stephen Kwan is very close there. And it doesn't make a difference. Like, they're not going to slug 500, but that's okay because they don't strike out and they do get on base because of their batting average. And so I think Major League Baseball as an industry has gone so far away from batting average. And I wonder at what point we're going to look at not just the ability, but the production of Kwan and Ariz and have a group of people who may not have the physicality that other hitters in baseball do now and say, hey, there's another path. It doesn't have to be that you're hitting the ball over the fence. That helps, but you can survive by putting the ball in play and putting it in play strongly. And that's the one anomalous thing I found about the Blue Jays. They haven't struck out this month. Like, they're at 17-point-something% strikeout rate. But they're running into some tough luck. The average on balls in play is around 270 when league wide, closer to 290, 295. So there's a little bit of bad luck in there, but I'm surprised that the balls in play for the Jays this month haven't done a better job of helping them score runs and making up for the lack of pop that they have in the lineup.
Jeff, with Kwan, the impressive part is the elevated fastball, right? He's left-handed. The way he gets on top of the ball, he can hit the elevated velocity the other way. But I wonder, and I want your opinion on this. I don't think 400's realistic. Like, as hard as they throw, the least amount of times he faces a starter, like, it's just hard, right? It's hard to go 3 for 4 every day because you don't see the same pitcher a ton. But what is the number that we all go, wow, that's just like 400?
I mean, isn't it still 400?
Yeah,
Can
it be 400?
I think it's still 400.
I just don't see that being realistic.
You know what? And I want it to be 400 too, because I like the fact that there are some records that aren't going to be. I mean, this might sound mean, But I like the fact that they're records that may not ever be achieved. Like DiMaggio's record to me is still my favorite record in baseball. It always will be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. I think, Kevin, anything over 350 is incredible. I think anyone who hits over 350 in modern baseball, like, you can't look at it like it's 400, right? But I think we look at it like an astounding achievement, because when the batting average across the league is down at like 240, I mean, I don't, I'm not in front of my computer right now, so I can't pull this up, but I'm curious what the batting average was the year George Brett hit 390, or back in 94 when Tony Gwynn hit 394, what was the league-wide batting average at that point? Because I think that can sort of, we can extrapolate that out and say it was this many points below the league batting average, and so maybe 350, maybe 360, maybe 370. Like Ichiro hit 372, I think, in his best year. But anything over 350 is a remarkable achievement.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The next question I have is, Jeff, who is the next Willie Mays?
Yeah, we had this discussion. This is kind of an interesting question.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, I think before he blew out both of his knees, the answer is probably Ronald Acuna Jr., right?
Mm-hmm.
A guy who has magnificent speed, who can hit for average, who hits for power, and who more than anything really isn't that big. Like that to me is the most remarkable part of Willie Mays. Like I think Willie Mays, because Willie Mays was so good, it's almost like we got up all of the best players out there and think of them, physically as larger than life as they are statistically. And so you think Willie Mays with 660 home runs and with 20-something All-Star game appearances, you think of him as this towering, commanding presence. Willie Mays was like 5'10". It's like 5'10", 180 pounds. And the amount of power that the man generated from that body, it's kind of unlike anything you see right now. And so I think the closest thing we have, maybe just accounting for the size, is Mookie Betts.
Yeah, that's who I said.
Is that outlandish?
No,
that's the name that we jumped to right away.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just
five tools
Acuna's
is
a little
loved.
bigger, but Acuna's not a huge guy. When he was at his peak, Andrew McCutchen played some Willie Mays-like baseball.
Yeah.
But just in terms of you don't see many guys that size anymore reaching the big leagues, frankly. I think teams, they almost look at, if you're under 6 foot or under 200 pounds, you're not big enough and you're not going to be strong enough.
Yeah, and the other thing with Willie Mays, of course, too, is playing center field. So much of his great skill was his ability as a defender. And I told these guys, I thought a funny line from Felipe Alou one time. He was talking about guys he played with and all this. And he said, Willie Mays played center field at a time where center field really was a field. Yeah. Like he had to do
just, you know what though? Just look at the catch. Like look at how enormous that field was.
Yes.
And look at the amount of ground that he had to patrol. It's ridiculous compared to the size of fields these days. The biggest field in Major League Baseball right now is Coors Field. Second biggest is Kauffman Stadium. But beyond those two, there aren't ballparks you go to and think to yourself, boy, that is a ton of ground that the guy has to cover, because they just don't. They're in terms of just square footage, they're kind of cookie cutter now.
So have you been able so far to avoid the who now is the greatest living player debate? Have you been able to skirt that? I kind of got roped into it the other night, and I really kind of backpedaled, I have to admit.
I mean, what was your answer?
Oh, well, people are probably going to be driving off the freeway here. Barry Bonds is the best player I've seen. I mean, the best player I've seen on a consistent basis is, to me, it's Barry Bonds. And, of course, people's heads explode when you say that. But
Anyone whose head explodes when you say that needs to understand that they're wrong, because that is the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, Barry, like, I understand Barry Bonds did things with steroid use that frustrate you as a fan, and that you kind of wish you could rewind the clock and be with him at that moment where he made the decision, this is the route that I'm going to take, because the man was incredible, just an absolutely incredible hitter. The kind of plate discipline that we had not seen before and will not see again. The perfect swing, the power, everything. And I understand he was on steroids from 2001 to 2004. I don't give a damn. Just look at what he produced. You have to be great at baseball, even if you're having additional help, to be as locked in as he was over that 4-year period. And before that, he was a multiple-time MVP, Gold Glove winner, stole bases. Like, he was just so complete. And to me, it's the great shame of 21st century baseball that Barry Bonds, the first part of his obituary, will, before it gets to how great he was, it will be notorious performance-enhancing drug user. That's the first thing that people think of, instead of, my God, how amazing was Barry Bonds at baseball. To me, though, this discussion, now that Willie Mays is gone, I think we need to start including Shohei Ohtani.
Yep. Oh, that's
I really do.
I
just, I want to look at Jack Caglione for a second. For those unfamiliar, he played at the University of Florida, and is a left-handed pitcher who was up to 99 and had a really good breaking ball, and is a monstrous power-hitting first baseman, 6'5", 250, just an insanely good athlete. And he was always a better hitter and has been a better hitter than he was a pitcher. But the hope, the idea was that, hey, maybe Shohei Ohtani has opened up doors to two-way players. Maybe organizations are going to be more open to the idea. Jack Caglione's going to get drafted next month, and he's going to either play a corner outfield spot or first base. He's not going to pitch at all, even though he's got a left arm kissed by God. And what that tells me is that if Jack Caglione, an insanely good athlete, someone who has proven at the highest level of college baseball that he can do both things effectively, isn't even going to be given a shot at doing what Shohei Ohtani has done at an all-star level on both places, what does that say about how much better Ohtani is than everyone else?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That is a great point.
Well, I think, for me anyway, I want to see how he looks when he comes back, when he's healthy and he's 100%. And is he as good as he was? Then we can have that conversation about how good he is. But I want to ask you about the Orioles now. After what they've done to the Yankees,
for people who don't know, they hung a 6th spot on them today, and they're leading 8-3.
Henderson got hit in the rib and just took it like a man and walked to first, and then they came back today and put a whooping on the Yankees. Can we put to bed who the best team in the American League is now? It ain't the Yankees no more. It's the Orioles.
Are you real? Is that your declaration? Because I'm not there.
Mono y mono, they put a whooping on them. You can only say, let's not overthink this.
Kevin, hold your horses. You played Major League Baseball. You are too smart to look at one series and declare one team better than another.
No, he's not.
I understand you have an accent, but that doesn't give you the right to be an idiot.
You just won't let me, will you? I want to. I want to say it.
Listen,
I
you
want to
might
say
be
it's
right,
true.
man. You might be right. But through 75 games this season, the New York Yankees had a better record than the Baltimore Orioles, and did that without the best pitcher in baseball.
Who's in first place?
They just got Garrett Cole back, the reigning American League Cy Young winner. They just added that back to their rotation. And so, and in the meantime, the Orioles lost one of their best pitchers, and their third starting pitcher to Tommy John surgery in the last couple weeks with Kyle Bradish and John Means and Tyler Wells.
Yeah.
So I get your point. If we're going lineup depth, I'm taking the Orioles. If we're going starting pitching, I'm taking the Yankees. If we're going bullpen, both of their bullpens have been really, really good this season. If we're going defensively, probably taking the Orioles at this point. But I just can't – I'm sorry, I can't look past Judge and Soto being in the same lineup when runs are going to be at a premium in October. And I can't get past the fact that the stuff that Garrett Cole – and I don't know if you've seen Carlos Rodon pitch this year. He's back to Carlos Rodon of a couple of years ago. He looks – nasty. And by the way, Luis Gil is even nastier, and I'm not even talking about Marcus Stroman and Nestor Cortez, who have been good this year too. Like, when we're talking about pitching depth, to me, for the Orioles to be unequivocally better than the New York Yankees, they need to go out and get a frontline starting pitcher.
All you need to know, Jeff, is that Barker thought the Orioles were in first place when he asked that question.
No, I didn't. But I wanted
I
wanted to throw it in your face.
And
I wanted to throw it in your face. And leave it to Jeff to bus throw me. Oh, you knew that was going to happen. He was going to back the Greyhound over me.
I mean, I've gone a different way because I thought it was the Orioles, the best team in the American League, and I mean, for all the reasons Jeff listed, I just think the road goes through the Bronx this year. And maybe the Orioles are the team that take that road, but boy, the Yankees are. I mean, Luis Gil, what he has done. The comfort. I mean, Jeff, the comfort zone the Yankee starters gave them while Garrett Cole was rehabbing was pretty remarkable.
I think, Jeff, if you ask yourself, 7-game series,
Yankees,
which lineup do you have more confidence in?
But it's not just the lineup; it's a team.
It sort of is.
No,
like it's not about age. It's not about Yankee Stadium. It's about your pitchers against their lineup. Which one in a 7-game series? If that thing was to go 7. Who do you have more confidence in?
Pitch game 2 for a Baltimore.
I'm saying. I mean, those two dudes are just as good for the Orioles as they are for the Yankees. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you gave a good argument.
Grayson Rodriguez pitches game 2, Jeff, and he's been really good too. But it's once you get beyond him, and look, Cole Irvin has been very good this year, and Albert Suarez has been like a ridiculous, like out of nowhere at 34 years old, putting up a 1-something ERA. Like, Baltimore's done a good job of papering over its pitching injuries, just like the Yankees did, putting Luis Gil in there. I need to see, before I answer that question, I'm sorry, this is a cop-out, I need to see what both teams do at the deadline.
Yeah,
I'm genuinely curious to see how aggressive they're going to get, because they're both very judicious teams when it comes to making those types of additions for one season, right? Like, how much, if you're one of those teams right now, knowing that the other exists and knowing that you could run into Seattle in the division series and have a 5-game series where you're facing Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, and Bryce Miller or Brian Wu, and you can get knocked out very quickly and very easily. And that Minnesota at the top of its rotation has – plenty of starting pitching, and that they can mash too. Like, and by the way, Cleveland has been the 3rd best team in the American League all season long. How much are you going to invest in this season is the big question for both of those teams, I think.
I think it's great for baseball that it's debatable. That's what I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
It'd be better if it was
I agree.
a 3-way debate with the Blue Jays, but that's another story. Mr. Passan, thank you for doing this.
You're
as
the
always,
best,
my
buddy.
friend. Be well.
See ya.
Pleasure's mine, gentlemen. Take care.
See ya.
Jeff Passan, MLB insider with ESPN.
I like it that I can get him fired up just by saying the
you already
Orioles
got
are the
him
best
fired
team in the American League. Yeah, I did a little. He was fired up.
The Orioles were in first place.
He gave I said, are they?
No, you said,
because I hadn't
who's
looked.
in first place?
That's not what I said.
You did.
You're going to say
being
that
smarmy.
because no, I asked you a question knowing that you were going to throw me under the bus. I look. If those two butted heads in the playoffs, one beat the other, you couldn't go, oh well, it's a giant upset. No, it ain't. Like
I think
those two teams are about the same. And Jeff's right about the trade deadline. It will be determined about that.
And Jeff is also right about he's right about the Seattle Mariners. When you just look at what that starting pitching's done.
Well, they need to hit too, right?
Yeah. Anyhow, it's 8-3. Luis Gil was actually lit up by the Orioles today. 6 runs in the second inning.
Told you.
The Orioles. No,
Adley Rutschman. I mean, who would you want up? Your paycheck on the line. I mean, we've seen that right firsthand. Both sides of the plate. John Schneider's tried to flip him around, and every time it hasn't worked.
I said that earlier this year, and you laughed at me when I said he
elevated
should be,
fastball, because I like Gunnar Henderson too.
He
but
be an MVP candidate.
I'm saying it's quadrants. It's how do you get him out when at bat the game is on the line. You'd almost go like that.
But it's kind of it's interesting because so far the Orioles have been able to make moves without necessarily tapping into the elite.
Well, they're going to have to
of their minor league system, right? And at some point, you've got to think. And at some point, you've got to think they almost want to do it because you can't have.
Well, they're in win
7
mode.
Shortstops coming up.
This
at one
should
time.
tell them by just going into Yankee Stadium and doing what they've done the last couple of days that they're capable of doing it. Right? Their better player got poked in the guts and just wore it. And then they came back the next day and did this. I think that says something about their team, their organization, their manager, their players. Like,
who did we have on earlier this year talking about Gunnar Henderson? Was it Ben? Who do we have on earlier this year? Just talking about how Gunnar Henderson's the thing that kind of separates him from Adley Rutschman is Gunnar Henderson plays with a bit of a.
He knows he's good.
Yeah, he got a little bit of a swagger. Adley Rutschman does too, but he's more I'm the catcher. I got to control the game. I got to be the center. I got to be
emotional,
the calm guy, right? But
Gunner's throwing his bat in the stands and throwing his helmet in the dugout.
I mean, it will be. I will say this: I hope the race stays tight to the trade deadline.
Me too,
because that will be that will be something else.
Yeah.
And I've thrown this out there, and I'm going to throw it out there again. If I'm the Baltimore Orioles, and I think I'm going to have to beat the Yankees at some point, I am absolutely calling about Yusei Kikuchi. I'm absolutely doing that. Well, I guess Ross. That's mean. I can't believe you went there. Actually, I can. There's no Blue Jays game tonight. Much to our chagrin, it means that there will be no Blue Jays talk. But don't you worry, because we'll have Blue Jays talk tomorrow.
They'll be tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, we will have Blue Jays.
You know who we haven't heard from in a while? Who calls in all the time on Jays Talk and breaks it down like nobody's business? We haven't heard from in a while.
Clifton?
No.
Clifton we've heard from.
No. Oh, boy. Shouldn't have said that out loud because I can't remember his
Billy.
name. Yes.
No, Billy.
From Markham. Where you at, Billy?
Billy may have given. Billy.
You think he punted?
Billy may have punted. This is a call out to Billy and Markham.
Yeah,
we're on Friday, and we'll be doing it next week.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that maybe we left on bad terms the last time you called up.
You may have made him mad.
Well, I could have, and if that's the case, I absolutely apologize. But, man, I mean, if you want to come up and call up and start firing people, feel free. We could get him and Gary on. Gary from Vancouver.
Yeah.
We could have them on and break down the Blue Jays.
Gary loves it, he said.
I'd love to fire people.
I love it, he said.
I'd love to fire people. I love firing people. My dad ran a restaurant and a hotel. He'd fire people all the time. He loved it.
You think that's the face he was doing when he said it?
I have no idea.
We are a show for the people.
We are indeed a show for the people. Mandy Bell is the Cleveland Guardians reporter with MLB.com. The Jays will play a 3-game series against the Guardians starting tomorrow. The Guardians, I mean, we saw them here. They're a fun team. They are a fun team to watch, and they've got a 400 hitter. That was an interesting point you made.
Well, he's hitting 396, I think, but
he's in a slump.
Oh yeah. You know what's impressive about that team
tomorrow?
Obviously, Naylor and Ramirez and Kwan, the top 3. Like, that's a handful. But it's the 288 average with runners in scoring position. That's second in baseball. Like that, I think the Blue Jays are hitting somewhere in the 240 range. Like, that's the difference, right? That 40-point difference is the separation from being in it and 4 games under.
And then there is that bullpen, which is awfully good. Mandy Bell joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. All right, 7:10 will be the first pitch tomorrow night. I looked it up.
Okay.
As the Jays take on the Cleveland Guardians. Don't look now, but the Cleveland Guardians, who have beaten the Seattle Mariners 6-3 today, are 23-9 at home. 46-26 overall, Kevin Barker. 23-9.
Yeah, your best
at home.
two players are being the best two players, and your bullpen is off the charts good. That's how you do it.
Let's bring in Mandy Bell. She is the Cleveland Guardians reporter for MLB.com. Mandy, thanks so much for joining us on Blair and Barker today. That is where we are going to start our discussion. 23-9 at home. Now, as my friend Mr. Barker would point out, well, three best hitters are hitting really well. We know about the Guardians bullpen. We've seen this team firsthand when they were at the Rogers Center, but 23-9 at home is still 23-9 at home.
Yeah, 23-9 at home is really, really great. And I mean, I know they've given a lot of credit to the crowds this year, which they have been bigger. I know not every night is a sellout, but when you're looking through the past few years, to have at least some, I know they just announced their fifth sellout's going to be this Saturday. So to already be up to 5 this early in the year is pretty good for them so far. And so they've been really excited about having that home field advantage whenever you're having the crowds be into it as much as possible. And they keep crediting how much it feels like a playoff atmosphere whenever they're playing. So I think they've loved all of that. And also just, a little bit of luck. It just seems like everything seems to be falling in their favor whenever they're at home.
Mandy, Jeff mentioned the three offensive players that are really good. Obviously, the Penn's the best in baseball. How did they sort of, I don't want to say figure out the rotation, but just sort of clean up the edges and make it a little bit better just to sort of solidify the entire team after they fix that little part?
I think, a lot of things have just sort of worked in their favor this year. And that's what it was in 2022. And that's how they got so lucky to be in a playoff position as the youngest team in baseball with so many rookies and didn't really have any experience. Last year, a lot of the luck that they had in 2022 went against them. And now they're starting to see it again this year. So you have the luck sort of falling in. The hits that were going straight at guys last year, those are now starting to fall in. Then you have on top of that Josh Naylor proving that last year wasn't a fluke when he was just exceptional, and he's been that again this year. Jose Ramirez is always Jose Ramirez, and then you have David Fry, who has come out of nowhere of being one of the better hitters in the league off the bench, and now has demanded basically to be a starter but doesn't have a starting position and just moves all around the field to stay in the lineup. Doesn't really make any sense, but it's worked for them so far. And so you have that offense, and you can boost that up a little bit, especially power-wise, because they were at the bottom of every leaderboard in power numbers last year. You have that mixed with like Tanner Bybee, who's starting to settle in a little bit more now, and the best bullpen in baseball. That's really been just all the keys to their success.
What have you learned, Mandy, about Stephen Vogt as the season has gone on?
Well, it just seems like, if you ask him what his plans are every day for a game, it's to beat the starting pitcher, and that's all that he wants to focus on, and that's how he puts his lineups together. They do favor matchups a lot, so as soon as that starter's out of the game, you might see guys coming off the bench. There's a lot of mixing and matching, but he's aggressive as a manager. He really is, and he's not afraid to try different things. He's not afraid to put down a bunt, go call for a bunt in a certain situation, play small ball. He encourages the guys to just run wild on the bases, cause havoc, and do all those types of things. He's very, very aggressive, and it's really worked for them so far. They've definitely run into some outs. There's been some games decided because of that overly aggressive base running, but for the most part, it's all paid off for them. And he's obviously learning every single day. He'll tell you that. He'll say every single day, I still don't know what I'm doing yet, and I'm figuring it all out. This is new for me. But so far, whether it's beginner's luck or he came into this knowing exactly how he wanted to run this team, it's really, really worked for them, more so than any of us would have predicted.
Mandy, who do you think has been the biggest surprise for the Guardians?
I think David Fry. It has to be David Fry because he's a guy who was competing for his roster spot in spring. You started to crunch the numbers and you're thinking, all right, they have to carry this guy, right? Because he's a super utility. He can really play all around the field. But they had Gabriel Arias, who's in that type of category where he can play all around the field. And do you carry both of them? Does that make sense? And you started looking down, and it's like that one of their prospects, Kyle Manzardo, if he would have made the team out of spring, you're thinking, does Fry even make it? And he played a key role for them last year, but his bat wasn't anything to write home about. And so this year he came into the season. Vogt has been a huge Fry fan since the beginning of spring training. He has fought for him to get as many at-bats as possible. And with this consistent playing time, he's just been unbelievable. And he's starting to cool off now a little bit more. I think the rate that he was at was ridiculously unsustainable. But even still, he's a quality hitter. And they've been missing those in their lineup. They haven't had guys beyond Jose, beyond Josh Naylor that you can really, really rely on. And so when you have a third one in the middle of the order like that, that's a huge difference. And so I think he's just been the biggest surprise because no one would have expected that he would have been into June hitting well above 300.
You mentioned Jose Ramirez. What's the secret sauce? You see him every single day. We see him from afar, the switch hitting thing. I mean, just the talent's off the chart with the things he does. But what's something that we wouldn't know that you were like, wow, that's something else added to all the stuff he does between the lines?
Truly, it's how much he loves baseball. And it seems so dumb to say something so simple like that. But, this is a guy who in the off season went and played winter ball because he missed baseball. He wants to play as much as possible. And you don't see superstars doing that. You don't see the best in the game using their off season to go find other leagues to play in because they just really want to keep playing baseball. I mean, it says a lot about him, and he wants to be in the lineup every single day. And if he's not, Tito went through it, and now Stephen Vogt's going through it. You hear about it. He goes right into that manager's office, and he is making it clear that he is angry that he is not in the lineup that day. And it's just that passion is what drives all of it. And he has a ridiculous baseball IQ, something that I don't think he gets enough credit for because he's one of the smarter base runners in the game. He's not the fastest, but he's one of the smartest, if not the smartest base runner in the game. And you can watch that every single day. And so you see the smarts that he has, the bat that he has. He's worked hard over the last few years since really the pandemic season of improving his defense. So now he has an even better glove than what he did at the start of his career. You have all of those, plus just this unmatched love for the game where he truly just wants to be playing baseball at all times. It's just that's a recipe for what we're seeing every single year.
And Mandy's cheap. I think that's the one thing, right? I mean, he's not a $300 million guy, which is pretty cool. I don't know how the Guardians did that, but good for him.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andy, obviously, Josh Naylor is having an all-star caliber year. What do the Guardians make of Bo Naylor's offensive problems this year? And is does he give them enough defensively that they will they'll ride this out and, wait for him to turn into maybe a better hitter than he has been so far?
I certainly think that it helps that they have 500 former catchers on their coaching staff. It seems like everyone is the former catcher. So he has a lot of guys pulling for him, and he has a lot of guys understanding what he's going through. We had Vogt talk about it since the beginning of spring training of your first full big league season as a catcher is the hardest because you got that taste, you're figuring it out, and now you know what's expected of you, and you're coming into it, and you're trying to be not just this catcher and this hitter, you're trying to be a leader of this pitching staff because you're a little more established now. You know what you should be doing. So you have to lead this pitching staff. You have to know every single one of your guys. You have to know how to call the best game possible. You've had the experience of getting that prep in and knowing how to do the homework. So now you need to make sure you're taking it to the next level. And when you're focusing so much on that and what the game demands from you defensively, Vogt talks about it. It's so easy for the offense to slip, and that's what we've seen, and that's what Vogt always goes back to. He keeps saying it. There's no secret. Bo's been struggling offensively this year, and it's because of all those things that you do have to balance and juggle whenever you're in your first full big league season, but because they all have that first person experience with it, I do think that it's something that they try to ride out with him, because everyone in this organization thinks that he's really special and can be really special. And we saw it last year at the end of the season once he started to get comfortable. His September was really, really impressive. His bat finally came alive, and we thought that, okay, maybe he just got the first few months under his belt and it took him some time, and he'll come into this sophomore year now and pick up where he left off, and he hasn't. So maybe it'll just take a time again for him to settle in, and he'll be something in the second half. But I think the Guardians will ride him out.
This is great stuff. This is the last one. Is there, I'm assuming they need one more starter, like a legit maybe number 2. Mandy, do they have enough, and do they want to go out and get that? Do they have enough at the minor league level, and are they buying in enough for this team, do you think, to go out and actually get a number 2 starter?
They don't have enough right now. It is weird, because this is not what this team usually is. This organization is the Cleveland pitching factory, as everyone has named it. They seem to somehow blink, and there's 4 more unbelievable starters ready to come up. And right now they've kind of run out of them. They have one who is in AAA, but he's dealt with injuries this year, so his timeline is pushed back further than they would have liked. He could have already been in the mix. That's Joey Cantillo, and now he's not really in that mix right now. They are soon getting Gavin Williams back. He's going to be making his, I want to say it's his 5th rehab start coming up tomorrow. So he's nearing it. The beginning of July, he'll probably be back, which should help, but it's hard to know exactly what to expect from a pitcher who hasn't pitched all year. Has started the year on the IL and is still working his way back, and was a rookie last year. So how do you know really what to expect at all? And so it's hard to put all of your stock in that and hoping that he's an ace level type pitcher to go with Bybee, and you guys can just rely on the 2 of them. But no, I think the trade deadline, they know that their focus needs to be on starting pitching. It's just whether they're able to get that deal done.
Mandy, this has been really good stuff. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, Mandy.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Take care. It's Mandy Bell, covers the Cleveland Guardians for MLB.com. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to waste a good team. That's the thing, right? How do you get it done? McKenzie's not having a good year. You know, he's trying to figure it out after coming off the injury. The velocity's sort of moody. You know, when that's moody, you have to be a little bit more fine. You got to be a better pitcher. That means your secondary stuff has to be better. That means you have to be a little bit more unpredictable. Like, he's going through some things. I just would hate to wait. Like, how do you waste a pin? The base running, the top 3 guys they got in the order, Fry, who is a surprise, when basically, if you think about it, now, could they beat the Yankees or the Orioles? Or maybe Seattle, muscle against muscle? But you could. So would you want to, how would you waste that? How did they figure it out? That's the thing, right? How would you take them serious if they don't?
I think they're in a little different place. Josh Naylor's got a couple of years left, I think, before he's a free agent. I think they're in a little different place.
Yeah, but last year they didn't hit, Jeff. This year they are hitting.
That's what I'm saying.
The point,
no,
right?
I am saying. I think they to me are a team that if you look around baseball, there's a lot of bad teams. There's a lot of teams under 500. You're 20 over 500. You should. If you are the Cleveland Guardians and you're their front office, you should be thinking like you're the Yankees and the Orioles.
That's fair.
And now that doesn't mean, obviously, you don't have the same payroll the Yankees do, and you don't have the collection of prospects the Orioles do. But I'd take a run at it this year, because, there is always the chance. There's always a chance that the Orioles and the Yankees, that they just to get first place, that they just kind of pedal to the metal the whole year. And I'm not saying you can coast if you're the Guardians, but
you talk about front offices they're familiar with each other. You talk about going to the Orioles. How about and the Guardians? Like, that would be a match too, right? The lefty trying to go match up against the Yankees. I wouldn't think it would cost the Guardians a ton, depending on what the Blue Jays end up doing. I'm just saying, like, there's options out there that you could gain some veteran power.
Okay, let me ask you
the bright lights is not going to bother you if you have to go face the Orioles or the Yankees. That's the point.
If you are a potential playoff team. Let's say, forget trading for Bo and Vladdy. Just forget that. That's off the table right now.
Barrios.
You're looking at and Barrios. Thank you. You're looking at the Blue Jays. Who are you pinpointing to go after? See, to me, it's Kikuchi, and it's number 9.
I wonder if Yusei is going to be good away from Pete Walker. You think that's the case?
I wonder about that.
It's like the Robbie Ray thing.
But
Robbie Ray been good since he left Petey.
If you trade Pete Walker, please don't trade Pete Walker. Well, I didn't want to plant that seed. So, but if you were to trade, there is always a chance you could re-sign him. But the guy I'm keeping an eye on is Danny Jansen, because they do not have another catcher in this organization. Alejandro Kirk, newsflash, is not going to be your everyday catcher next year.
Uh-huh.
But if I'm an organization, I keep thinking about this. You know what the Philadelphia Phillies said? Their ideal fit is a guy who could come in, be the number 1 guy right now, and then when JT Realmuto comes back, maybe play a little first base or DH.
Yeah. I think going to that team with the 3 behemoths that they got at the top of the rotation and the bullpen that the Phillies got, that's a little different. Like, it would have to be the perfect team, right?
Yeah, but
to do that.
I'd take the
I don't know. What's Danny going to – I mean, boy, what do you expect? If you're a team, what do you expect from Danny?
I expect pull power and good defense.
Now, what Danny's, I think, for me anyway, told you is if they have to abuse him – by playing him a ton, say 5 days a week, it's going to look sort of the way it's looking now, right? Out in front, cheating a little bit. At least that's what it looks like to me.
That's why a team.
You got to be careful with that, right? So, again, it's got to be that perfect situation.
Which the Phillies are.
Yeah.
And you need him every day.
It depends
right
on what
now,
you get from him, for him from the Phillies. Like, the Phillies are the Phillies are trying to win the World Series. I would think they're the front runner.
Well, you're not getting anybody off the Phillies roster. You're trading Danny Jansen. The guys, Danny Jansen, Yusei Kikuchi, all those guys, I don't think you're getting a major leaguer back for them. Maybe in the case of Yusei Kikuchi, you get a guy who has got a little bit of major league service time, a guy you're going to count on for next year. But I think if you're trading those guys, you're trading prospects because you are right. Nobody who thinks they have a shot at the World Series is going to turn around and trade you, unless it's a horrible contract they're just trying to dump on you. They're not going to turn around and trade you an everyday guy. I don't think a guy off their everyday lineup for Danny Jansen.
Chances 1 to 10, 10 being for sure that this front office is coming back next year.
This front office?
Yeah, for the Blue Jays. Reason why I'm asking this, 1 to 10, 10 being for sure.
2.5 to 3.
Then that, I think, would be the first thing you'd have to take care of. Do you want this front office dumping players?
It doesn't matter. You've got to. You have to make a decision on the guys that are going to be free agents next year.
The fringe guys too. Is that going to get you anything that's worthwhile?
No, but you have to make a decision on the guys who are going to be free agents next year. You can't wait for the new front office because those guys are already going to be free agents. So you got to make a call on Jansen, Kikuchi, Turner, all the guys that have a year left in their contract.
I'm intrigued.
Well, I'm too, but I'd be more intrigued if we were talking about adding. Try to get to the playoff race. Anyhow.
Well, they did say it didn't make any sense to trade the core. Didn't say anything about them other guys.
That's it for us. We will be back tomorrow from 4 to 6 Eastern on Sportsnet 590 Fan of Sportsnet. John Schneider, the manager of the Blue Jays, will join us for his weekly appearance. And we're doing Blue Jays talk as well. There is no baseball tonight. There is no Blue Jays baseball. But enjoy your night, and we'll chat.